It's time for Cats Talk Wednesday. Small town and big city joined forces. Vinny Hardy of Lynch, Kentucky, and Terry Brown of Louisville, Kentucky, team up to give you free-flowing, laid-back sports talk. Focus on Kentucky Wildcats, as well as pertinent information in the NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball.
And that's what we try to do each and every single week here on Cats Talk Wednesday. It's Wednesday evening, another episode. Terry TB Brown, Vinny Hardy. TB, man, how's it going?
It's going great. It's going great. We're going to talk about a little bit of horse racing. I got to slide that into the intro as well.
Absolutely. We being Kentuckians, the world just watched our home state this past weekend, and we have a fellow Kentuckian TB. Everybody's seen him on their NBC dial for years, and he is kind enough to join us this evening. He is in the BS3 Network Green Room. We are talking about Mr. Kenny Rice of NBC Sports. Kenny, how you doing?
Denny TB, it's great to be with you guys. How are you tonight?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
My pleasure. See, I was ready to talk about Oscar Sheveway and Will Levis, but we'll talk about the Derby if you want.
Gotta talk about the Derby. Got to. I think, and even now with us being from Kentucky and all of us bleeding blue, we kind of got to preempt all of that with the news with Denny Crum passing away too. I mean, that was sad to see as well.
Yeah, it really was. You know, when I was working at Channel 36 years ago, I went up to Louisville to do an interview. It's probably about 81. I hadn't been on the job less than a year. And I got there late. You guys are probably too young to remember how Louisville used to kind of be crammed in a corner when they practiced way back in the days, you know, when they had all those great teams of the 80s. But I was late, but Coach Crum was very nice and took time out when they had a little break in their practice, come over and gave me the interview so I could get back to Lexington in time to get it on the air. And I didn't have a lot of encounters, but every time I was around him, he was always just a class individual.
TB, you met him as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I grew up in Louisville way back when. And when I was a Louisville fan, before I saw the light, and you can see all the Kentucky stuff around me. But, man, as I tweeted out, Louisville basketball was cool in the early to mid 80s. Like they had the Doctors of Dunk, which is absolutely one of the coolest nicknames you can have for your basketball team. And they were just cool. And Denny Crum was the coolest of the cool. So for what he meant to the city, what he meant to the state, what he meant to college basketball, that's a big loss.
Thanks for bringing that up, by the way, because we give some credit to Phi Slamma Jamma down in Houston, but the Doctors of Dunk, in my opinion, at Louisville started the whole thing.
In that 1983 Final Four, I challenge people to rewatch that game. You know, everybody thinks about the NC State over Houston, but Houston-Louisville was probably the most athletic semifinal game we've had ever.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at it, Vinny.
I did start it. I got to finish it, but I pulled up the YouTube and hey.
I mean, you got Drexler and you got the McCray brother. I mean, it's tremendous basketball.
It is. It is. It was so much fun to watch those Louisville teams in the 80s. The McCrays, Ellison comes along. When I was in high school, I watched Darrell Griffith when he played at Mayo and some of those great teams and all those guys at Louisville, and some of them went on to play at U of L. It was really a special time, and I don't think that time's coming back where we have those really great high school players going on to college. We've got a few, but very few. Used to, you go to state tournament when I was a kid. Of course, I'm dating myself, but, you know, the first few guys I saw play in order, I saw Wes Unseld and Butch Beard back-to-back years win state tournaments when I was a little boy. You know, that's kind of hard to top from going on from there. And then Ron King came along and Otto Petty and Jeff Lamp was at Ballard. I mean, there were some tremendous players that came out in the 60s and 70s out of the state of Kentucky.
Yeah,
and Vinny, that's Louisville Seneca alumni, Wes Unseld.
That's right. That's you know, we got a Seneca man in here, Mr. Rice. Got a Seneca guy.
And Mike Red, man, he could play. Seneca they had a team back-to-back champs.
Yeah, we did way back when. By the time I came along, those were distant memories. But we got to talk about the Derby.
Schools that, you know, their day kind of it's a long time gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got to talk about the Derby. I'm here in Iowa now. I moved, but I just have to tip my hat to the way NBC and your coverage really brings what makes the Derby special. As I'm kind of talking to my wife and their family, I just think the coverage, it's gotten better every year. As someone who's now away from Louisville, I just want to tip my hat to you folks for capturing what makes the Derby special. It's more than just a horse race.
Well, thank you. I mean, it really is. Let's face it. There's no other sport where there's going to be so much ado about 2 minutes. I mean, look at everything that builds up. And honestly, like for the good folk that live in Iowa, you being excluded because you grew up in Kentucky and you know the deal. But we realize that this is the biggest sports audience since the Super Bowl is the Kentucky Derby. Mm-hmm. And it's split demographic, which is pretty rare. About half the audience men, half the audience women. And you usually don't get that except for the Super Bowl, that kind of split. And so you want to tell stories that would appeal to the masses, people that maybe casually watch horse racing are not very interested in, what's going on with a story. And they'll go, hey, I like that horse. I'm rooting for that horse, or I'm rooting for or against that guy, which is the essence of sports. So, that's what we try to do. And I've been doing it for a long time, and, thank God, keep doing it. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, once the day starts, it really goes quickly. It's just getting those, it's kind of like you get out of the block and then it starts rolling. But that first half hour or so, and then by the end of the day, you go, wow, that was a quick 7.5 hours. And I never thought I'd say that.
How many derbies have you covered for NBC Sports?
23. Man. About as old as Vinny is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm 23.
That's right.
I'll take that every day, Kenny. I'm about to double 23 in November. So,
oh man, it goes quick, doesn't it? I tell you, they say, wow, that's a lot. And I say, are you kidding? I'm thankful I'm still doing it. I mean, when I first started out, Donna Brothers and I are the only two left on the team. So, I mean, it comes, it goes. It's, it's like anything else. Everybody's got a shelf life. So again, thank God I'm still doing it. And, I might be able to squeeze another couple of years in. I'm not breathing hard and falling down on the walkover. That's the litmus test,
That's right. Absolutely. How do you prep for it? I mean, do you start at New Year's, or you're watching to see which horses qualify, and then you have scratches the week of and the day of. You're trying to get stories on jockeys and trainers and owners. How do you manage all of that and funnel it into the first Saturday of May?
Well, Vinny, it's like you keeping up with all the football players and basketball players. It's just something that you do, which probably sounds easier than it is. But we'll start watching the 2-year-olds later this year. I have an idea. Obviously, if a 2-year-old is trained by a guy named Todd Pletcher or Brad Cox or Bob Baffert, who will be back on the scene now, you pay close attention. Because you figure they're going to try to get them ready for the Derby. That's what they do, is try to get a horse in the Derby. Mm-hmm. And, then there's Steve Asmussen, Chad Brown, a couple other guys that you kind of pay attention. Which doesn't mean somebody else will pop up on the scene like Larry Ravilli did this year with 2 fills. But, those are the guys that, that's the Kentucky and Duke and North Carolina guys that, you figure should be or probably will be in the mix every year. So you pay attention to their 2-year-olds and kind of follow it from there. It's hard to really cram, so you just kind of do it throughout the season. Somebody wins a pretty good race in Florida, you kind of make a note of it, write some things down, maybe about the owner or the breeder or something quirky about the horse itself, and then you kind of refer back to your notes. And so you build those up, almost like scouting reports for a couple of months or so, and then we get together and talk about it about a month out, really. What's your story ideas? How about this angle, that angle? And that'll be with me and the whole team. So it really is kind of like getting ready for a big ball game, getting ready for a Super Bowl, which is the Super Bowl of racing in this case.
That makes sense. Man, TV, jump in there. Don't let me just be...
Well, like I said, it's just there's so much to take in at the Derby. And it's almost, as you talk about your preparation, you've got 2 weeks of everything. And then 7 hours on Derby day, it's got to be kind of hard to say, okay, this is a story we're going to go with. This one, maybe not so much. But I like it because it's folks that aren't steeped in it, like I was born and raised in Louisville.
Right.
This was my 45th Derby. I'm gonna tell
Wow.
my age, Vinny. So I'm used to it, but the garland of roses, the mint juleps, trying to explain to my wife, who's from Iowa, like going into the track, you'll see somebody in flip-flops and shorts.
Yeah.
You'll see somebody in Versace. You'll see somebody with a tacky suit with horses on it. You'll see hats of all shapes. Like, to me, it's the biggest like melting pot of just everything.
It is.
And it's that's what I love about it, Vinny. I know Vinny's never been. I got to get Vinny to go.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the infield, and I'm too old for the infield now. I need a place to sit. I need a place to take it easy with a little bit of AC if it's hot. I can't do the infield like I used to.
You get past 23, nobody should do the infield. There should be an age limit on the infield.
Oh yeah.
I did a report on the infield my first Derby with NBC, and then they sent me back over one more time, and it was really interesting. That was in 2000. The second time I went over was, I guess, about my third Derby with him, like 2004. And anyway, we were going to like jump out of the back and do it quickly and walk through. So, because TB knows he's been there, and Vinny, you've seen enough of it from a distance. You're a target. If they see you with a microphone and a camera, they're going to just gravitate to you. And so these two really large men are on each side. They come up and say, "Hey, you put us on camera." I said, "Tell you what, you guys flank me. And if make sure nobody jumps on me and things." They said, "Don't worry, we got it." These are two guys that I'd say Kentucky wouldn't mind. Stoops wouldn't mind having them on his front line. Okay, that's how big these guys were. And so as soon as we start walking through the crowd, they leave me. And people are jumping on me, and and I don't even know what I said at the end. Nobody could even hear it, but I threw it back to Tom Hammond and Charles C. Canty, the anchors. Well, lo and behold. Dick Ebersole, who ran NBC that time, was so impressed that I didn't go down. That they, because they're on my back literally,
right.
and I didn't go down. And I probably would now, but 20 years ago I could handle it better. And so he thought that was showed some, I guess, some guts and fortitude and all that. So he gave me my first Olympic assignment, and they sent me to Greece to do boxing later that summer.
Wow.
All because I didn't fall down at the Derby. They thought I handled it with some poise, I guess, even though guys were jumping on my back and screaming in my ear and everything else. It was nuts. Yeah, it's a crazy world like that sometimes, guys, isn't it?
It is. It really is. So you've parlayed. You've done a whole bunch of things for NBC Sports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when it first started, Sunday Night Football. Now, this is when Tony Dungy was still coaching. Rodney was still playing with the Patriots, so they didn't have the crew that they have now. It was Bob Costas and a couple other guys. They had me and Lewis Johnson, Bob Newmeyer. There's about five of us that rotated around. I usually did, because we're located in Lexington where I am, I did the Bengals. I'd go to like a Bengals or Colts game, go to a Titans game. I did do some Vikings and the Falcons. So what I would do is an interview. This is when Chad Ochocinco was playing. And the Bengals were a lot of fun, back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd do a report, and sometimes I'd be on the air, or sometimes it would be my hand holding the microphone, And Bob Costas was very kind. He said, "Our Kenny Rice caught up with." But, I interviewed like Brady and Manning, Michael Vick, these guys. I'd interview them on the field. You talk to their PR guys and say, we're using this for Sunday Night Football. And then I would do something for the web. I'd do a report afterwards for the web, like a 45-second hit. I did that for the first 3 years. And then it got bigger, and I wasn't getting that assignment anymore. But I've done boxing. We did a great boxing series. I got to work with Sugar Ray Leonard, one of the favorite people to work with. I was very lucky to do that for almost 6 years. And did I've called MMA for them. I've done equestrian. I've done 5 Olympics. Called Olympic boxing 2 times, once as a reporter, twice as a play-by-play. And then I just got through calling curling, guys, your favorite sport and mine. They called me up last year and they said, "Hey, you ever done curling?" I said, "No." "You know anything about it?" I said, "No." They said, "Good, cram. You've got about a week. We want you to go do curling." So I did curling in the 22 Olympics. Yeah, it turned out to be a blast. I worked with a guy that won a gold medal, who was really nice and helpful, and learned a little bit of the strategy. It's more than just guys getting up there and throwing it down, sliding it down the ice, and it keeps me fresh. I enjoy doing different sports. And one, it keeps me employed, being versatile, and
Right.
two, I kind of like the thing, But I did, I worked for Mark Cuban for a while. For 14 years, I did a mixed martial arts show with a guy named Boss Rutan. And you may have heard of him, the first UFC heavyweight champ. We did a show together. He's a dear friend. And, it's been that kind of experience. I did football and basketball for Mark also on HD Net, as it were, at the time. It's now Access TV, and he's since sold it to Steve Harvey, and they don't do sports anymore, so I don't really work for him anymore. But, I've had a pretty good life. I got no complaints. And nobody cares if I do, but I really have none.
So I got to ask in two parts then, based off of all that with your journey. The coolest thing, pre-race, Derby, post-race, coolest thing you've ever seen or experienced at the Derby, and then the coolest thing you've done non-racing with everything else you've done at NBC Sport. Coolest event you covered or place you've been to or
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, I tell you the coolest thing on air deal was in 2015. I'm at Belmont Park. I've been following Bob Baffert all the way through the Triple Crown with American Pharoah. It's about 5 minutes before the race. If you remember back then, remember that Burger King guy? The guy that dressed like Burger King?
Yeah.
He's there at the races, and NBC knew he was going to be there, and he was paying so much money to Baffert and to the Zayat family that owned the horse. I don't know how much. They were getting like $1 million or something to split up. I'm not sure the exact amount or how it was split up. But anyway, the deal was he would be on camera on national TV, I think twice, okay? And then he had to leave. So it's like now 3 minutes before the race, and, the crowd's building and screaming, and Pharaoh's coming to the starting gate. And is this the time we're finally going to see a Triple Crown winner, since 78? And Baffert looks over at me. And I thought he was going to give me one of those Joe Namath deals, where he said, "Hey, Kenny, we're going to win. We're going to win. I guarantee it." And I was all excited. I was getting ready to tell my producer, "Hey, come to me. Baffert just guaranteed victory." That's what's going through my head. And he points to Burger King guy, and he says, "Do you ever think you'd see this at the Triple Crown?" I said, "No, I never did." and then Burger King guy doesn't want to leave. He wants to stay. And
Right.
the one thing nobody wanted. Well, first off, he had fulfilled he's fulfilled our commitment to give him his 2 times of viewing audience thing. But nobody, you don't want to see if the guy wins the Triple Crown. The first thing you see is a big Burger King guy behind him and his family. So our guy, one of our guys, who coincidentally in the small world department, he had also been an offensive coordinator for Hal Mummy at a little school called Beth Haven in Jackson, Mississippi. How's that? When I first meet him, he comes up to me and says, "Hal Mummy says hi." I said, "How do you know Hal Mummy?" He said, "Oh, Hal Mummy's, I work with him." So, in his small world, at TV event,
Right.
you know how it all comes together in crazy ways. And he's a pretty good sized boy. He was pretty solid. And he goes over and literally kind of picks up and scoots Burger King guy out of the way. It was funny. That was, I'll never forget that moment. That was one of the coolest things. And obviously interviewing Baffert when he won his 2 Triple Crowns. I interviewed Steve Colburn, the guy that was a co-owner of California Chrome, when he was just mad and angry and said things that you just don't hear in post-race interviews. And like he said, they're all cheaters. You shouldn't allow a horse to come into the Belmont without running all 3 races. And nobody knew what to do. And I said, "Are you kidding, guys? This is the day that mixed martial arts comes to horse racing." This guy threw down. He wasn't one of those, "Well, we had a good run. My horse is nice. And congratulations to the winner." I said, "I like that. This guy, a little WWE action comes into horse racing."
Need some spice.
He spiced it up. It was a fun interview for me, man. I was just letting him go. I was trying to, I kept asking him questions. He kept firing them back answers. So, that was good. I tell you, one of my great non-events, never on the air, I was actually I did polo also for NBC. I've called bull riding. I did the professional bull riding tour for 3 years, back in the 2005 through 7, I think. And, but also called polo for them. Okay. So I know it's actually kind of fun. It's like hockey on horseback. Once you kind of get into it, it's a fast moving thing. And so I've called that for them. Well, I'm down in Palm Beach, Florida, and the guy I call it was guy Adam Snow, who was the last great American player. Most of the good polo players are from Argentina, and he was the last great 10-goal player. So, which is the highest level you can get. And we're sitting in this little box, and I'm just kind of observing the action, learning and taking it all in. And so these two ladies sat beside me, and they introduced themselves, and we have a break in the action. And the one lady says, "Have you met my husband, Tommy?" And I turned around, it's Tommy Lee Jones. And the Tommy Lee Jones.
Man.
And so we shook hands, and he was very pleasant, but businesslike. Now we get to halftime. And there's 8 people in this box, and we look around, and only Tommy Lee and I are in the box. Everybody else has taken a break and gone around, And I could tell he's looking at me like, don't you just know, because I have experienced that being around, some of these actors. The last thing they want to hear from me is, "Hey, I like your work." Like, who cares what I think,
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at him and I said, "Hey, I just want you to know, I grew up 40 miles from Butcher Holler, Kentucky. My dad is a retired federal coal mine inspector. And I like the dignity that you all brought to the role," talking about coal miner's daughter, because, my area gets stereotyped a lot, and sometimes rightfully so. But I said, you brought a dignity. And he started talking to me about this. That's all an actor tries to do. So we had actually a pleasant conversation for about 5 or 6 minutes. And and he asked me this. He said, "Have you been to Neon? Have you guys ever heard of Neon, Kentucky, by the way?"
Yes, sir. Look, look. I'm from Harlan County. So,
well, okay, then you'll know this, Vinny. I
know where Neon is.
I said, "Tommy Lee, not only do I know where Neon, I've been to the Twin Cities of Fleming and Neon."
That's right.
And and TV, you don't honestly.
I'm a Louisville boy.
I know you could put Fleming Neon pretty much in your studio.
Yeah,
couldn't you? I mean, it's very tight. And anyway, they shot a lot of coal miner's daughter there in Neon. So he said, "You ever heard this story? You tell me if this is true." And I did not know it at the time. He said when the passenger train would come through the area, that was a big deal in the 20s and 30s to see a train come through a little town. He said if you were trying to catch the train, you would kneel down on the platform. You would have a knee on the platform, and that means the conductor was going to stop and pick you up. Otherwise, they just figured you were out there to wave to the crowd as they went by. And I never heard that. And I looked it up, and that's why they named it, even though neon spelled like neon lights. So, it was a little moment, but I talked to one of the all-time great actors, in my opinion, and we had a nice conversation without the silliness of me telling him, "Hey, don't shoot. I don't care." The whole fugitive thing. Right, I didn't have to do any of that. And so, that was a cool moment. You meet some cool people. You get to interview them because of the NBC. I got to interview. I did Michael Jordan. I interviewed him on the balcony overlooking Churchill Downs one year. He'd just taken over at Carolina, just hired Larry Brown. So the fact that I know a little bit about basketball, I not only talked horse racing, but I was able to talk a little bit about all you Carolina guys stick together, had a little fun with that in an interview. So, things like those moments are just nice and nice to remember. And there's been a lot of them. I said if I ever wrote a book, I'd list all the famous people I met and then say maybe 3 of them actually still know who I am. You meet them, you interview them, they go their way, you go your way, and everything's been pleasant so far.
Hey, you need to get on that book, Kenny. Goose Gibbons is coming out with one. You need to go ahead and get you one, man.
Well, now, see, Goose is real famous. So, see, I went to school with Jack and Kyle and all those guys, even though I look much younger than all of them. I was in school when they were in school.
Yeah, of course.
But, Jack, he's got some great stories, and, well, that was just a wonderful team. I miss not only that team, but that era where you knew the guys. There's sometimes I watch the games now, and you all follow much closer than I do, obviously. And I'll look, I go, "Hey, I forgot Vanderbilt played at Kentucky. I'm watching the Lakers game the other night." I forget some of these guys because they're just there and then they're gone. And so I miss those days where you really got to know the guys and local guys were on the team, like Jack and James Lee and those guys. Mm-hmm. I'm afraid that might be a bygone era. I don't know. Maybe it's coming back a little bit there. So we're Jasper's going to be playing. Looks like they're recruiting him, and he got Reed Shepherd, and so that's mm-hmm. nice. So I'm hoping that that's more guys like that.
Yeah, get some of those legacy kids back. That'll be a nice touch.
There's a guy goes to church with me. His mother plays piano at Brea Christian Church. I'm recruiting for him because everybody's recruiting, like Notre Dame and Michigan, all these. And Malachi Marino, his brother Michael, plays for Eastern. and Malachi's at Great Crossing up in Scott County. He's 6'11". He's going to be a junior. So I'm trying to get UK to look at him. They don't care what I think. I'm just throwing out there. See, that'd be up to you guys now.
We'll try our best.
That's right. Yeah.
Put that guy on your list. Malachi Moreno is.
There we go.
He's a player. He's a good player. He's the kid's only is going to be a junior. So yes, that's my recruiting news, Vinny. That's all I got for you.
Hey, I like it. Because Michael would have Scott County in the Sweet 16 pretty much. All 4 years he was there. I remember.
I think so. Yeah. And he's got one more year at Eastern. He's put together a nice career, 1,000-point scorer at Eastern. And, and he and his brother are both just really, they're good young men. You can just tell, I speak to them some. I'm not close to them, but like I say, their mom plays piano and they come to church some. I talk to them. They're really nice guys. You root for kids like that, I call everybody a kid that's under 30. I'm at that age now. Hey, that kid's 45 years old. What do you mean?
I'm getting close to that myself.
That's right. That's right. Speaking of the Sweet 16, haven't you been? I mean, you got a streak of years attending that as well, right? I mean,
it started with my dad, Reginald. He is he's 94 and still going. I'm very blessed. He's outlived every Rice member of the family. They all died in their 60s. I should be dead. Really. He's outlived everybody in the family. We don't know, but thankfully he keeps going. He saw his first state tournament game in 46. And he was in the Army for 3 years. There was a couple of family things. I think he's missed 5 or 6 tournaments since 1946. I saw my first one in 64, the year Seneca won it. The year Unseld was my first big star player. And I missed 4 years in the 90s when I was working at Channel 36 in Lexington because Kentucky was making those runs, with Patino and then later Tubby, those Final Four runs. So I missed the state tournament those years. So I think I've missed 4 state tournaments. I believe that's right, since 1964. And, like I said, my dad, he's like a walking history. He saw Kelly Coleman make his last basket when he played for Wayland in the 56 state tournament. And he saw Travis Perry break the record this year at the state tournament. So 67 years later, I'm not sure how many guys are still alive to see that. But my dad is one of them. And, he's seen everybody from Hagan and Ramsey when they were playing in high school to, like the Darrell Griffith and Winston Bennett. Not many guys have seen that kind of range,
Yeah, that's a lot right there.
Yeah. And like I said, I've been fortunate, my goodness, to see Unseld and Beard alone just right off the bat. I mean, 2 of the greatest players to ever come out of this state. And then, of course, I got to cover when they played at UK, like Winston Bennett, Rex Chapman. I saw those guys in the state tournament. The state tournament, it's just a special thing to me. I don't know too many states where they'll get 11, 12,000 people to come out and watch a high school game on a Wednesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon. I don't know. There may be some, but I don't know of any. And I like the class. I like not having a class. I like that the little school can play the big school. Yes. And every now and then a Shelby Valley, every 10 or 15 years or so, might actually win it. I like that. I think that makes it fun for everybody.
Yeah, I like it too. I'm all for it. And we're all Kentuckians, but then, TB goes and hunkers down for Louisville, and I hunker down for the mountain teams when it gets to the Sweet 16.
Yeah, I got to support Louisville teams now, man.
That's what the great thing is, I mean, I like that, root for where you're from. If you're from Paducah, root for I don't know, I guess Tillman doesn't come as much as they used to. When I remember it seemed like Owensboro and Paducah Tillman were always there. Louisville Male was always there in Central. And then Shawnee snuck in there when they had 2 great guards. Yeah. Ronnie Golden and let's see, was it Wayne and Ronnie? Was it Wayne Golden? Oh, now I'm going to forget. It's 1973 that won the whole thing. You'd think I'd remember. I remember they won the whole thing.
I got to ask my mom. She was teaching at Shawnee then, Vinny.
Get her on the phone. We got to find this out because you know what? Both those young men went on and played at Oklahoma State for Guy Strong, who was a coach at the Eastern at one time, and he's a Clark County coach. Was a coach at one time. Yeah, I think it's Wayne Golden and Ronnie Gordon. I'm pretty sure were their names. They could play. I remember, and they broke it up because it's either like Male or Central were dominating, and then Shawnee comes along that one year.
That's it. Man, Kenny, we have thoroughly enjoyed this and definitely got to get you on closer to football or basketball where we can talk a little more Sheboy and see what the roster looks like and all that good stuff. And the more
Yeah.
about your versatility and appreciate you just taking the time to hop on right after the Derby and talk all things Churchill Downs and assignments you've had and people you've met. We really, really appreciate it. And we'd love to have you back on, Kenny.
Vinny T, but you call me anytime, guys. I've really enjoyed it. I've got to start studying up on the Preakness now and see if anybody other than Mage is going to go on and try to run again. And we've got a lot of new players coming in to see what's going to happen in the Preakness. So that'll make it fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. We again appreciate everything that you do individually and NBC does to really put our home state and my hometown. It looks great. So I certainly appreciate that.
Thank you so much. That means a lot because that's the key. That's what we hope to do, and I will pass that along to my colleagues. By the way, seriously, they'll be glad to hear that as we always are when somebody thinks we maybe have said a few things that they enjoyed or got them to watch that horse race that day.
Absolutely, right. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rice. Take care, sir.
Thank you so
Gentlemen,
much.
my pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Kenny Rice, NBC Sports. Versatility personified TV and
polo,
curling, the whole thing, man. Olympics.
If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right?
Hey, exactly.
If they tap you in, just saying, "Hey, can you do this?" Absolutely. Get you one of those how-to guides and figure it out. I understand.
That's right. We get our second guest back in the green room, the BS3 Network green room. Appreciate them allowing us to be part of the network, Benson Earth, as well as all the other podcast platforms that are part of the network. We appreciate it. This gentleman's been on the show, TB. It's been a little minute since we had him on. He's down here in Knoxville, where I'm at. I first heard him on the News Sentinel Sports page. Took over when Dave Hooker went to Chattanooga, and that's where I heard him do his thing. He's the play-by-play analyst for Tennessee baseball. Covers the football, the basketball. You see him on TV on the Sports Source with John Pennington and several UT players and media members. We're talking about our guy, a fellow Vinny as well. Vince Ferrara is in here, man. What is up, Vince?
VHTB, been too long. How you guys doing?
Doing great. I so glad you're coming on because I know I tweet at you, Vinny. You don't know, but
I do know.
Season,
I see him.
But during football season, there's a Vol for Life guy that's doing big things in San Francisco.
I know.
So we're always sharing clips back and forth. So
yeah, that's the juice man, Juwan Jennings, you're talking about. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's making big plays, Vinny.
See, as a Kentucky guy and a Cowboys fan, that's just double whammy of ugh.
Tennessee dudes too much credit, but when they're helping out my team,
I'm
all day long, baby.
You gotta respect the game, the way he plays, and look what he overcame. I mean, he was booted off the team basically, and then got reinstated and given another opportunity. That's one of the things that Jeremy Pruitt actually did right is he let him back in and gave him another opportunity, and Jennings made the most of it. Very, very popular former Tennessee player, and he stayed straight until that whatever Instagram post or whatever it was that they got out, they got him into that trouble. But man, he turned himself into a really popular Tennessee player, and he keeps getting better in the NFL.
Y'all are right. I just said the other day, you have to be able to compartmentalize, because when I was the first one cheering for Jason Witten, the minute he left Knoxville and went to my Cowboys, I was like, hey, if Louisville guys go to the Rockets, you keep the college stuff separate from your pro fandom. You can't let that stuff intermingle and have you all worked up. Oh man, which look, a lot of Vol fans are upset that Levis is coming to town. They saw Tennessee beat Kentucky 44-6, and they're this guy look good. But you got to separate it and hope he can help the Titans now. You gotta keep that separate.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys brought me on to talk about Will Levis. I don't know if we want to go down that route.
No,
to be honest with you, but Yeah, you're right. If you're a Titans fan now, if you're a Vols fan and you weren't a fan of Will Levis, now you're a Titans fan. You do have to still root for him to what's best for your team. So I'm sure there's a transition period there to do that from college to pro.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, you're versatile, just like our previous guest, Kenny Rice. We can talk to you about anything, Vince. You know that. There's no curveball we can throw that you can't handle. But the first thing we want to talk about, Kentucky and Tennessee play baseball this weekend. Tennessee just won their midweek game over Austin Peay. Kentucky beat Tennessee Tech. Kentucky got back ranked after sweeping South Carolina, but from the Tennessee perspective, I just want to get your thoughts, because last year, rode high all year long, whooped everybody. They were the class of the league. Came up short, when it came time to go to Omaha against Notre Dame. But what was the carryover like for the team this year? What was the mindset, from Coach Vitello and the returning players? Was it fuel? Was it motivation? Were they still going to be as brash as they were last year? Were they going to be a little more humble? What was the vibe coming into this season?
Well, VH, there's a lot there, right? Because this team was must-see TV for a reason. For several reasons. They're really good, and they were brash, and they rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And when you win and do it with flair that's different in a sport that traditionally people want you to act a certain way, some of those unwritten rules and all that stuff in baseball, if people aren't used to seeing it and you're winning, you're going to become the villain. And they embraced that. But largely it wasn't because Tony Vitello wanted them to all be that way and said, you guys are going to act this way. That's the kind of personalities they had from some of their best players. Drew Gilbert especially, and he is shooting up the Astros organization. He's a rookie. He's already in AA. So Jordan Bagg, Northwest League player of the week, and he's crushing it there. Won't be long before he gets a AA in the Rockies organization. So those guys are really good, but they had some flair too, and they were confident, and they weren't afraid to show it. Tony Vitello would let them be that way because they put in the work. So it wasn't just everybody gets to do what they want or I'm going to make you act this way. They earned the ability to be themselves, whether it's a quiet guy that doesn't say a word or if it's a guy that has a bat flip or, does whatever that rubs people, tosses a batting helmet down the third base line on the way to home. So he let them be that way, and a lot of people didn't like it. So this year's team, though, they don't have a Drew Gilbert or a Jordan Beck. They have some guys that have some flair, but it's not to the extent. You're not hearing about Tennessee do those kind of things because for two reasons. One, not everyone is like those guys on this year's team. And two, they're not at the top of the sport right now because they were preseason number 2, and they haven't been that since the 5-10 start in SEC play. So it's a much different team. It's a team that has its own personality, and they had to replace all 8 of their position players. So, Vinny, I think it was some guys had motivation off of last year. Others are so new that they really didn't have that. And they've had a number of transfers. They had a number of guys who were on last year's team but didn't really have big roles. When you have to replace all 8 of your position players, that takes some time. So what they have credited with the turnaround when they won 2 straight series with sweeps over Vandy and Mississippi State was prior to that, they started learning about each other, spending more time together, doing team bonding stuff outside of the diamond in the stadium. And then they got to learn each other and connect and fight for each other, and then also play looser. They were playing with kind of a burden of what they had accomplished the last couple of years. And you mentioned, what they had done and, being the number 1 team almost all season long, finishing with single-digit losses and not getting to Omaha, which, was stunning to a lot of people and very disappointing for the fans. But yeah, I think for some it drove them, but for others it's more, hey, my playing time's increased, so I need to get better for me. And then in my pro hopes, but then also for the team as well. And once they started meshing what's best, what they're thinking about with the team, is when you started seeing more results. So it was kind of all over the place and figuring things out. Lost 2 or 3 to Georgia, which, was a little bit surprising, but Georgia's risen up and beaten some teams. You guys know, following the sport, I mean, last weekend was a great example. How do you know what's happening in SEC baseball? LSU loses their first series. Kentucky, who you guys know, was in a little bit of a slide, and they turn around and sweep South Carolina. Yeah. So, Alabama, with everything they were dealing with, takes 2 or 3 from a top 5 in Vandy. So just kind of life in the league, I guess. And so they're still trying to figure it out and play their best ball at the end.
And that's one thing. I'm here in Iowa now, of all places.
Wow.
But just here in Big Ten country, trying to explain the SEC is the best at everything.
Yeah.
And we've had all kinds of coaches come on and talk about, hey, if you can compete in the SEC, the national championships already, if you compete in the SEC, you're championship level in everything. And that's, football is going to get the big, because football is football, but I'm like, it's baseball, it's softball, it's volleyball, it's track and field. And it's just so brutal that you can even be a very good baseball team, but you're going to go through a slump because you've got to play other really good baseball teams. Same way in football.
Well,
now men's basketball.
Right. It has gotten better in men's basketball, although I thought last year maybe wasn't quite as good as they were on a run of. But no, your point is right. Sometimes going through the league, especially if you have a tournament, a conference tournament, sometimes that's more difficult than what you're going to go through the NCAA tournament when you're playing in a bigger field and you have more mismatches. And the SEC in baseball, there's been some of those projections for the field of 64 that had 11 teams from the SEC. That would be a record for them. I mean, and the 2 teams that wouldn't make it in a potential scenario to make it to Hoover, the last 2 national champions.
Yes, exactly. It's unbelievable.
So have fun with that.
Ole Miss and Mississippi State both win, and now they're at the bottom of the West, which is just crazy, man.
And Ole Miss was a comparison when Tennessee was 5-10. You kind of looked up, all right, what kind of precedent, what kind of track record is there for a team that's that bad to start the first half of conference play to still make it to the postseason? Because it was looking a little dicey there if they were going to continue that track. And the most recent example was last year. Ole Miss started 5-10. They were talking about kicking Bianco out, who's longtime high-level coach and accomplished. They were sick of him there, but they figured things out at the right time. Guys developed, played their best ball, and they were one of the last teams into the tournament. There was debate about that on the selection show, but then they were able to win out. So it's like basketball. It's a postseason sport. That's how you're ultimately judged. Tennessee's had 2. I'd say, well, the first year they got to Omaha, it was disappointing because they were really good. And I think fans, once you got there, they thought, hey, we got as good a shot as anyone. But that was a step in the program. That's kind of a natural progression. Get to Omaha, and then after that, you maybe win the national championship, get to the title series, that kind of thing. Not getting there last year, then, there's a little bit of disappointment. But it's not like they're going to fire Tony Vitello if he doesn't get there. But I think the expectation is, hey, with the pitching and the way this program is recruited, that they do have the ability to get to Omaha. And if they do that regular season, people aren't going to remember that or care, just like they didn't in Oxford last year.
Yeah. So 5-10, and now they're 12-12. So 7-2 in their last 3 series to start that turnaround like you talked about. And, the season is almost over, which is crazy.
Yep.
And, it'd be time for Hoover and time to see we're about hosting and regionals and all that stuff. So, both teams, like you said, trying to finish strong. Kentucky trying to carry over, 14-10. And all it was is, they need to win 3 games in these last 3 series. And they went and won 3 against South Carolina. So both of these teams right there in the middle, really. And, it's a big series. Is the revenge thing big in baseball as football? Because that was the first series they lost last year in Lexington, I think, Tennessee.
Correct.
And so is that even a role? I mean, it's a whole new team. You already mentioned all that, but is that still kind of in the back of their mind? Hey, this team kind of got us last year.
I think in certain cases it can be. I think Tennessee kind of has bigger fish to fry right now than, trying to make up for last year, especially considering how great the regular season ended up being for them. And they were conference tournament champions as well. So they still accomplished a lot. So I don't think that's a big deal. They need to win for their NCAA tournament hopes of trying to. And the players have even talked about it in the post game. John Wilkerson and I were talking to catcher Charlie Taylor, and he was like, "Yeah, we want to do well down the stretch so we can host a regional." That's what they're, I think, more focused on than getting back at Kentucky. So it is there. It's in the back of their mind, but I don't think it's the biggest motivation. The thing with Tennessee is they're so much better at home than they are on the road. 2-10 in SEC play on the road.
Got a little Golden State in them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Golden State, the Warriors have won some games on the road in the postseason. So that you were wondering how much they would do that in the postseason. They still have had their struggles, but at least they've marked some. If they're going to do anything in the postseason, they're going to have to win on the road. So they're going to have to figure that out. And they have to do it at South Carolina after this Kentucky series, because if you don't finish strong enough to host a regional, you're going to be on the road as a 2, and even if you advance, you're going to be on the road for supers, and even if you get through that, you're going to be on the road in Omaha. And this team just has not played as clean or as confident for whatever reason on the road. I think Kentucky, though, about the matchup brings some interesting dynamics. One thing, I looked at the RPI. I hadn't looked at it in a while. Kentucky is the number 1 RPI.
Most of the year they've had it.
I mean, it's incredible because, you saw them in the polls kind of slip, and Tennessee has as well. But, man, what matters is that RPI. So Kentucky, because they play kind of the small ball thing, and they force the defense of other teams to be sharp, and they put it in play. That's at times been an issue for Tennessee, is their defense. They booted it around a little bit. They don't have as good a fielding percentage as they did a year ago. Now, Tony Vitello's kind of settled on a lineup that he feels is their best defensive lineup. And in doing that and settling on a main group, they've also hit better once they settled and everyone kind of fell into their roles comfortably, except for DH. They'll switch some of those guys around. But it still at times will pop up and bite them. Kentucky putting it in play will be interesting to see how Tennessee handles that. Also, that I wonder about, some teams come in here and hit home runs against Tennessee if the ballpark, the wind's blowing out, the wall is a short distance in right for left-hand hitters. So you can leave the yard here in Knoxville at times. And, Kentucky, that's not necessarily what they do. But, hey, it'll be fascinating because I think both teams can pitch too. And that's one thing for Tennessee. They've gotten better is their weekend starting pitching.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's one thing. You mentioned John Wilkerson. That's one thing I failed to mention in the intro. You do the games with him on the Vol Network, of course. Also hosting Sports Talk with John and Vince, because you filled in and co-hosted a ton with John and Jimmy Hyams, who just retired, longtime journalist, covered the Vols forever. Y'all has moved from 3 to 7 to now 6 to 9, and it's Sports Talk with John and Vince. So how's the transition? How's it, being the co-host now to fill in and step in to replace Jimmy with John every morning? How's that going for you?
Well, John's probably sick of me between Tennessee baseball broadcasts on the Vol Network and then doing a 3-hour daily show and being at program meetings. He's like, why won't this guy leave me alone? No, we have a great relationship. I've been at the station since 2010, so I've been filling in on that show since then. Even when you remember when I was hosting a daily show in the morning, the New Sentinel Sports page, I would still fill in a lot with them. So, hey, those guys got a lot of vacation because they earned a lot of vacation. So I would be on all the time. it is cool to be on the air daily. That's me. I'm a broadcaster first. That's my passion. And then, all the other things are now secondary to me being on the air. So, doing the Vol Network stuff and everything else is awesome. So we're enjoying it. It's a different show in the morning. It's a different lifestyle getting up at that time and trying to get to bed early. Some of these NBA and NHL playoffs, man, they're tough when it's going on, especially the West Coast games late.
Oh, yeah.
You got to wake up in 4 hours.
Yeah.
But you figure it out. And yeah, it's been awesome to do the show. So I appreciate you asking.
I listened to the last episode, Jimmy's farewell episode, and I was like, man, Jimmy's not even gonna cry. Jimmy's not even gonna cry. And they got to the end.
Yeah.
They played All Dang Zion. John is just, losing it. After 25 years with the guy, and you don't have a relationship that's like Mike and Mike. Of course, he's gonna be emotional that his partner's retiring. But at the very end, Jimmy said, I'm going to miss a lot of people, and you heard him. I was like, wow. Because, so that was, that was touching to hear. And, I don't know him. I've just, seen him on the air and on TV, but, that was great that he was able to have that episode and be able to retire and move on to spend time with the grandkids and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and he's trolling everybody on Twitter that used to troll him. Now he's putting pictures of him on boats and, all these vacations and stuff. And he's even, in case you missed it, some of his vacation and retirement tweets out there. So people would give him grief all the time, unfairly, I think at times. But and so he's just messing with people now and enjoying himself. He's still on the air on our station. He does golf talk Monday nights at 7, and then he's going to be doing some of the game day all day shows, and he's going to cover the SEC spring meetings in Destin and SEC football media days with us. So he gets to pick and choose what he wants to do. Right. So he's just not, doesn't have to do the daily grind or deal with, sales and management and all that kind of fun stuff. So good for him.
Absolutely. Now we got to talk about your home city, man. You're a Tampa native, a proud native of Tampa. First thing I wanted to ask is, first of all, how are you a Saints fan when you're from Tampa? Do you even just kind of keep that quiet when you go back home, or do you just go back in Saints gear? How does that work?
No, not really. I honestly, I went through that phase where I was mad at my hometown team, the Buccaneers, because of ownership and just so many bad mistakes and judgment, and wasn't living there in Tampa as well. So I went through that stretch where I kind of adopted the Saints for a while, but we've made up and have for a minute. So okay. Yeah, I root for my hometown team, the Bucs. I still, outside of when the two teams play, it's strange to have division rivals and want them to do well. So I still like the Saints, and I know Bucs fans and rivalries, you don't want to have anything to do with those other rivalries, but hey, they're still a number 2, and I at least have a better feeling about in recent years what the Bucs have done, and it's just kind of one of those soft spots in your heart that you kind of go back to. You get mad at the family, you don't talk to them for a while sometimes, and then you go back to them. So that's kind of my situation, honestly.
So which Super Bowl was sweeter, the one with Gruden or the one with Brady? Since you got 2 for the city.
Gruden. Gruden. And obviously people are going to say the Tony Dungy roster and all that kind of fun stuff, but I think that it had been that was more special. With Brady, you kind of knew there was a good chance that could happen, and it already happened once. So that Super Bowl breaking through, considering the history of the franchise, I think that one was more special. But it was still fun to see. So my hometown just gets so hyped about that. Now they've raised the bar and the standard, and it's been kind of post Brady, or even last year was down. But I think the morale is down a little bit with them. Baker Mayfield leading that group. Yeah, they're not feeling as good.
Yeah, absolutely not. And I got to ask, what's the basketball scene like in Tampa? The high school basketball, where we hear about Atlanta, and why does Georgia Tech struggle when you have all that talent in Atlanta? What's the basketball scene like in Tampa?
I think it's good. It's not maybe what you might think in terms of products coming out of there. You'd think that it would, produce because there's just the athletes there in Florida. I don't know if it's them, the kids going to other sports like football. Obviously, football still produces baseball. It's always been a great baseball area as well for products. The Florida Gators got a bunch of them. You look through their roster on their baseball team. They got Tampa all over the place, including Caglianone, who's one of the better players in the league. So baseball still, pound for pound or ratio still probably produces the most college players for a sport. But for whatever reason, there haven't been a ton of them in basketball. I'm not sure if it's a coaching issue or players going to different sports, but haven't dove into it too much. But it hasn't been at the volume that you would think there in Tampa for basketball.
And that just had me thinking too. When we were going to have you on, you see a lot of markets. The big ones have all three pro teams or all four. Tampa is a city that has two. You got the Rays, you got the Buccaneers. In Louisville, we've seen a push to get the NBA. Seattle's probably the obstacle that might get a team first. Dan Nissel's been on here talking about the work he's done to try to get the NBA to Louisville and the young centers there and all that kind of thing. Has Tampa ever pushed to try to get the NBA? I know Orlando's there in Central Florida too, but they're like, hey, we got two pro teams. Why not look at us? Has Tampa ever even tried to get their foot in the water on that?
It's been flirted with, but not they haven't gotten very far. And the biggest reason is Vinny, for years they have botched the Rays Stadium situation. I mean, that has been a drama for many years. I mean, even almost going back to when I was there. I haven't lived in Tampa since 2000, go 3-4 times a year, follow the scene, but that's how far back it goes for them. Honestly, just politics screwing up, trying to get a better stadium. They're never going to win a championship if they don't figure out a stadium. And then, their ownership is flirted with playing half of their games in Montreal and all this other nonsense and, building a stadium in downtown St. Pete. That's not where their population is that goes to their game. That's the majority of the fan base. It's in Hillsborough County, where in Tampa, where the Bucks are, where a majority of the population is. There's retirees in Pinellas County. Yes, it's grown some, but from a number standpoint, that's where everybody is. And so it's a long drive to get to all these baseball games in downtown St. Pete from when people live in Tampa. So they got to figure that out and get a stadium in Tampa, but the politics have gotten in the way. So good luck trying to put together a package for your city when you can't come together for an existing franchise and figure out what's best for one of the teams you got. You're never going to convince anyone to come when that has been a terrible look for you for a long time.
TB, that's why we have Vince on, man. You can ask him anything, and he's all over it, man.
That's what I'm saying, man. If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. We appreciate it.
Hey, where's the Tennessee football talk? I mean, we've gone, 15 minutes? You haven't brought up football yet? What's going on?
We 11-2 last year.
Yeah.
Ahead of schedule, or was it right on time? Or is it
no?
Should we expect a little step back, or are we going to sustain that? Where are we at?
Well, I think you may regular season, having the 10 wins. Could they take a step back to 9? I would be surprised if they were lower than 9, honestly. But last year was ahead of schedule, I think, from where it looked like they were going to be, or where a lot of us thought they were going to be. You get the sports talk callers that call in that are always going to be over the top optimistic. And as you guys know, the closer you get to the start of the regular season, the more fans add wins to their total of what they expect from their football team.
We had Kentucky fans talking about how 9 wins was the floor for Kentucky football. And I'm like, are you crazy?
Mm-hmm.
9 wins being the floor for Kentucky football, something that we've only seen, like 4 or 5 times in our lifetime.
Right.
And I can see 50. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, I understand you want to see progress, but getting for Kentucky to get to 10 wins, that's beating Louisville every year.
Right.
That's beating Tennessee every year. Even if you concede the Georgia game, that's beating Florida every year, and the 2 Mississippi schools. I'm like, that's a lot. That's just a lot. Like, I can't look at any of those losses and scratch my head and be like, we shouldn't have lost. Like, why? I need to settle down, Vinny. I get upset. But when you say, well, we're at 10 wins, like, because the list of teams that win 10 wins every year, it's what? Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson-ish.
Right.
That's not even Michigan or USC or Texas. Like, what are we even doing here?
Yeah.
I need to settle down with football. But it just, I'm like, come on. And Kentucky fans, I love them, but you cannot apply basketball logic to everything else.
It's funny that you use that phrase, because all the other sports at the University of Tennessee, the fans look at those sports with a football mentality. That's how they judge baseball. Like, it's the end of the world when you lose one game. I'm sorry, there's a bunch more games. You can't look at basketball that way. You can't look at baseball that way. It's not like you've lost your chance at winning the national championship because you lost one midweek game, So, but that's hard because, and you guys probably have it with basketball, there are plenty of fans that show themselves that will talk and be present that are football only. And then when it's convenient, they'll chime in when they feel like it on the other sports. And you guys probably have it with basketball. There's probably some basketball only that when they feel like it or when things are going well or really bad, then they'll have an opinion on the other sports, but they're really just one sport fans. And that's fine if that's what you want to be, but you can't look at everything that same way with that mentality.
Exactly. So outside of Joe Milton, the incumbent starting QB, what's the most important player and or position group to Tennessee's success for them to be where they want to be or do what they want to do this upcoming season?
Well, VH, regardless of what you may see in articles or people's tweets or people's comments, there is no quarterback competition at the University of Tennessee. Joe Milton III is QB1, period. Now, is Nico Iamaleava, the 5-star from California, much hyped, NIL discussion, all that stuff as a recruit? Is he crazy talented? Do fans want to see him on the field? Will he probably have a package to play and close out some games? Absolutely. A lot to be excited about with his skill set. Tennessee's never had or very few recruits ever have been higher rated than Nico coming in. There's only a handful, Bryce Brown and, maybe even Eric Berry, a couple of others, but he's as talented a quarterback recruit as Tennessee has seen, and the most talented guy, pure skills, since Peyton Manning. So there's the expectation for him to eventually play. But because Joe Milton closed out the regular season well when Hendon Hooker went down, showed better deep ball accuracy, which was his biggest issue before when he originally, remember, had the starting job, not Hendon Hooker 2 years ago, and then Milton got hurt. And that's what opened the door for Hooker to play. People think that it was Hooker just outperforming him or Milton getting benched for performance. It was actually Milton getting hurt and not able to come back, and then Hooker played great and then never gave it up. So it's kind of it's a little bit off there in what people remember. But he's made progress. Had a great Orange Bowl, the Orange Bowl MVP, and that really calmed a lot of people down with the Nico talk. And I was thankful for it because we would have had a summer of Milton or Iamaleava discussion all summer, and we have not had that from the fan base. Thank goodness. So that he is the QB1, but you're right. It's on him how this team is going to go. But the other biggest factor to me is the improved pass defense. And connected to that is pass rush. They only had one guy last year that had more than 3 sacks, and that was Byron Young, who was a 3rd-round pick of the Rams. So they kind of pieced it together, different blitz packages, different linebackers, and different defensive linemen in a big rotation. It's kind of a shared group. But, man, if you're going to create turnovers, if you're going to make game-changing plays and help your back end, which has not developed at the pace that the run defense had. They made a big step with the run defense last year. But if they're going to do that, they've got to help with a pass rush. They have a couple of really promising, twitchy, talented Leos, what they call them, that Byron Young position, that edge stand-up outside linebacker / defensive end. But I don't know that anybody is separated yet. A couple of those guys are sophomores, so we'll see if the light clicks or if it's senior Roman Harrison or one of those guys. They've got to get a game changer on that D line to help their back end. Now, their back end might be better because they had so many injuries last year. So they've gotten a number of those guys back. They also added Gabe Giulilali, who came over from BYU, who was at Vanderbilt longer than he was at BYU. He's got a shot to compete. And do they have what the offense has had, and that's player development? And maybe on paper, like, we didn't see some of those guys that ended up being, top 3-round draft picks. We didn't see them develop going in having those kind of years. But that's because they put in the work and they got better. And it's a really good coaching staff here. So can they get that development and improvement for the returning guys? I have a bunch of freshmen, but it's hard to rely on freshmen. You guys know how that is.
Oh, yeah.
So that dynamic of pass defense connected to the pass rush, if they can make some progress, they don't have to be Georgia with this offense, which is still going to put up big-time points and yards.
Yeah.
They just need to take some steps and not have those horrific games. They actually had some really good games defensively. LSU, they're really good. Kentucky was a good game for them. But then when they were bad, they just got lit up. They have to avoid those kind of games and limit those. And if so, with this offense that I think is still talented and will put up a ton of points, that's really the key to them being right on Georgia's door and challenging them as much as they've been challenged in a while, because honestly, in the end, they really haven't that much.
Yeah, that's it. Good stuff, man. Appreciate you taking time out of your evening on a off day, no midweek game, and you spent time here chopping it up with us, man. Appreciate
it's not bedtime yet, so I had time for you guys.
All right, we appreciate it.
It's been way too long, like you said. We can't thank you enough, VF, for hopping on here with us, man. Thank you so much.
Anytime. Always a pleasure to talk to you guys on any platforms, or even want to see you in person in press boxes.
That's right.
And, all right, good to talk to both of you guys. Appreciate you.
All right, thank you, Vince. Appreciate it.
All right, see you guys.
Vince Ferrara, sports animal, Vol baseball, sports source on TV. He's all over the place doing his thing, man. Tweeting about Vols and Niners with you. So
yeah, Juwan Jennings, man, he's fit into the way the 49ers play, man.
Absolutely.
Lunch pail.
Gotta give him credit. Gotta give credit where credit is due. Even if it is a Vol, he's helping your squad. Yeah, hey, it's all good. Speaking of all good, your Lakers on the verge of hitting those conference finals up.
And I hope they do it tonight. Number one, because I need to get some sleep. This every other day thing, staying up. I'm glad I'm on Central Time, but still, it's like, okay. Because the other night, I was getting ready to go to bed. They down 7 in the third quarter. I'm like, this ain't going to. Then it got up to 14 or so in the fourth quarter. I'm like, all right, I'm going to lay down. And I'm watching on my phone, right? I'm down in the basement. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm checking the score. And I'm like, okay, now it's tied. And I go back to watch, and I'm like, hello, Lonnie Walker the fourth. Why not, man?
Unbelievable.
So this is how things flip. And look, I get it. My man Adam Jacoby, a friend of the show, he's a Lakers fan. And so, late at night, we always texted. And look, some fans of teams that are good don't want to embrace the villain role. I have to talk to Kentucky fans. When it comes to men's basketball, ain't nobody feeling sorry for us, man.
Right.
When we go 9-16, the jokes are going to be coming out because we've been kicking everybody's butt for 90 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as a Lakers fan, I get it. I appreciate the hate. But there are people on the internet that I assume with a straight face are talking about how the game is rigged for LeBron. When we traded for Rui Hachimura, didn't nobody say, how they do that? This was not the Chris Paul trade. This was not a trade when the league was like, no, you can't do that. When we traded for Jared Vanderbilt, right? Wasn't nobody like, that's the missing piece. Right?
Love his heart, but no.
Keep in mind, when the trade deadline hit, we were the 13th seed in the West, out of the playoffs, one spot from the bottom.
Yeah, those were happy times for me.
Exactly.
I was loving that.
And now here we are, 7th seed, 1 win away from the conference finals. It's great. But people come out with these narratives like, oh, well, LeBron ain't do nothing because they got new players. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what the front office is supposed to do, is find players to make your team better. How is that a bad thing? People just get mad when anybody trades with the Lakers. But none of the players we brought in at the time were game breakers. But we have figured it out. AD, I wish he was more consistent on the offensive end. But defensively, he's been that dude in these playoffs.
Yeah.
I need him to go for another 30 and 15 tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I told the wife this, she's baseball. The Warriors, they keep changing their starting lineups.
Yeah.
They keep changing what they do.
Putting Peyton in and all that kind of, yeah.
And I'm like, that works if you don't have an Anthony Davis. As you saw at the end of game 4. Game 4, yeah. Game 4, right? Yeah, 3-1. Okay. Yep. Locked up Steph. Yeah. Now, he can't do it forever, but he locked up Steph, right? Made it very difficult. If you got an Anthony Davis, defensively, you've seen it up close. If you think back to 2012, he's over the place, disrupted. So anyway, I'm excited. This to me, knock wood, the Lakers make it to the conference finals. I'm ecstatic. To me, an older Lakers fan, we've been playing with house money since we got into the play-in game. You start 2-10.
Unbelievable.
Around MLK Day, you're 13.
Yeah.
And this is a rare feeling for Lakers fans. It's like Kentucky in 2011 and 2014. Like, hey, let's just see what happens. That is not that's just not how it usually operates. It's usually like, oh, they ain't got it this year. But the Lakers fans operate. And I understand, like I said, in my life, 4 other trips, that's pretty good. But that's just how we use it. But look, in my dreams, and I was telling Adam this, in my dreams, we get to the finals and beat Boston to get the all-time title mark.
Are they both tied right now? What, 8? Both of y'all got 8.
Tied with 17. 17 apiece. Tied with 17. Yeah. Be the first and beat Boston all the way to do it. That would be great. But it's house money, man. It is. Like I've told you, my best case scenario heading into the playoffs. LeBron does not have to hit the turbo that much.
Yeah.
And he hasn't. Like I said, Lonnie Walker, the 4th. I forgot about it until he started balling out. Austin Reeves has played really, really well. Rui Hachimura has played really, really well. Vando has played pretty good defense. Gabriel has come in and played like, look, man, and this is how I know people hate the Lakers. When it comes to Kentucky fans, anytime a Kentucky NBA team gets two Kentucky people,
Yes.
it's the Kentucky Knicks.
Nope.
Because they got Quickly and Randall, right?
Nope.
It's the Kentucky Kings, because they got all this. Ain't nobody said nothing about no Kentucky Lakers.
Nope.
And we had a Kentucky dude coach them to a championship. Come on now. And I've had people, I've tweeted about it. Be like, well, are they really Kentucky people? Anthony Davis. Y'all got no love for AD?
No, not in purple and gold. We don't.
Look, and that's cool. I'm okay with it. Man. I respect AD. If you go sit here telling me that you knew in January getting Rui Hachimura was going to be the key to the Lakers going to the conference finals. Okay,
Man,
hey, I embrace the hate, man. It's great.
Wizards fans got to be sick watching him right now. If I'm a Washington, because they have been trash for years, and now you trade Rui away, another rebuild, and then you stay up late and watch him. He couldn't miss a three the other night.
Against Memphis, he came out he hit like I think it was like 4 or 5 in that third quarter of one of the games against Memphis. And it's been great. It's been great. AD's becoming that dude. And that's what I said when they signed him to a long-term deal. If he can become that one, and I need a little bit more out of him, right? He got to demand the ball a little bit more, right? Which I think is a good problem to have. But, hey, you're going to be the one. LeBron at your 2 still ain't bad. Mm-hmm. But if you've got the role players playing at a high level, I like it. Now, nobody's going to be out here and be like, look at these, the bad news bears, these Lakers. I get that. Like, I get it. LA is LA. I get that. But, man, I'm enjoying it. I really am.
Yeah, that's good. That's good for y'all, man.
But this, hey, I'm telling you right now, they get this chip, I'm gonna be unbearable. If they get this one, I'm gonna be unbearable. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
So Boston friends and family might want to, but they get this one.
And that effort by Boston at the TD Garden last night left a lot to be desired.
And this is how you know the Lakers is cooking. Jack Nicholson made his return for the first time in 2 seasons. Game 6 against Memphis. And he was at Game 4 the other night. Jack is back, baby. I love LA. It's just different. Did you see, what game was that? Maybe it was the Memphis game. AD fell into the stands going after a loose ball and he busted his lip. And they were like, oh, he hit a fan. The fan was Will Ferrell. Like, that's LA, baby. I love it. That fits my personality. Showtime, baby.
Yeah. That's how they roll, boy. I'm looking at it from the perspective of if we get Boston up out of there, and if we get who we got? We got Lakers. If we get Boston and the Warriors up out of there, that guarantees that a former Cat is going to win a ring.
Yeah, because you have the Lakers, and Denver, or the Suns,
and then it'd be Philly, Miami, or the Knicks. So you get the Celtics and Warriors up out there. A Cat is getting a chip. So that's when you're a Rockets fan, you ain't got no dog in the fight. That's what you do. You look at stuff like that. Oh, if Kentucky guys on these teams, if you get these 2 teams out of here, then that's what I'm over here. Wasting brain cells on.
Absolutely. And, I love seeing the Cats in the NBA got 4 guys averaging 20 points. For me, and I understand, look, you can have this discussion, and we've talked about it ad nauseum. Should Kentucky have more championships with Cal? Right? Shannon Sharp talked about it.
Yeah.
We talked about it on Round of Shots a couple episodes back. All right. Yes, we all admit at least one makes us feel better.
Right.
But I think it's also fair to say that the dudes that are scoring 20 points a game played pretty well for Kentucky. It's not like they're dudes that were scoring 4 or 5 points. I think Devin Booker, just by the team he was on, was probably the lowest point per game guy of any of those guys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you just don't. You don't have time. And look, this is when you were choosing to go one and done. You don't have time to tap into everybody's entire bag. You just
Right.
can't get everybody rolling with everything they got in one season.
And Trey Lyles is a dude I always forget about.
Yeah.
And he was playing some solid minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a discussion with somebody one time, like, oh, Trey Lyles could have come back. I'm like, why? Well, he could. I'm like, he's getting rotation minutes in the NBA in year 7, 8.
Yeah.
That's a pretty darn good career.
Pull up Basketball Reference and see how many millions he made. You know,
I mean, that's a pretty good career in the NBA. I'm like, that's okay. You know, maybe no All-Star appearances, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's been in Utah, Utah, Denver, Sacramento. Is that the 3 teams he's been with?
Denver. He was with somebody else too. I'd have to look it up, but I think there was another team because I was like, oh yeah.
Utah,
but Trey Lyles is a dude I always forget about.
Yeah, so like Utah. I think Utah for a little bit, but
yeah, he was with Utah for a while. But Jamal Murray used to be that guy until he started going for 50-point games in the bubble. And I'm like, oh well, I guess I got to stop saying that. But
yeah,
I love the NBA. A lot of folks down on the NBA and blah 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 whatever. I love it to see. I don't like seeing Steph shoot those kinds of shots against my squad, but watching Steph play is fantastic, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What the run Devin Booker's on in Phoenix.
Ooh.
Like it helps that they got KD, but Devin Booker
he done tapped another level these past.
He's gone up and watching. I still say that of consistent scores, Jamal Murray probably the most consistent scorer that we've had at the guard position under Cal. Now Malik Monk is always the dude. If he got it going, good night, right? But I just think night in, night out, hey, you're gonna get 20 from Jamal Murray. So I'm hoping tonight that the Lakers win, wrap this up, get a little bit of rest in before they get the winner of Denver and
Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. If it's Denver, hey, AD versus the Joker, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be something else. And as good as Denver is, here they are having to go through the Lakers and no experience versus all the experience.
And all the Lakers would need is just give us one game in your city. Just one. Just one.
Goodness gracious. Just
one. Is that what I told you about a month ago? Just get one. Yeah. Just get one against Memphis. Okay. Just get one.
Come on, Mike Malone.
Against Golden State. Just get to one. And we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it. Like I said, I'm having fun watching. I had forgotten, because with the bubble, all those games were like at regular times, right? But now that we're back to playing in the arenas,
that's spoiled us.
Well,
all in Orlando, all Eastern time, spoiled us to death.
Yeah, when I was, because I, again talking to the wife, like I had forgotten when the Lakers are really, really good with these deep playoff runs, it's tiring. And I know that's nothing to really complain about, but during the back-to-back with Kobe and Powell, woo, I was okay during the three-peat. Shaq and Kobe, I'm up.
Oh yeah,
I'm up. And then way back in the 80s, a lot of those the big games were always on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of catered more to Eastern audience. But anyway, I'm excited about that. But speaking of Kobe, Kentucky might be signing a Kobe Brown.
Yeah, hey, we saw him have a good game against us out there in Como. He played well, and they won. You know,
We need another Brown, man. We've had one.
hey, that's right. That's right.
Just Dale.
Uh-huh. So yeah, this talking about tweaking the roster is still happening, and look, I'm not gonna get up in arms about the portal or the NIL. A lot of people it's gotta be regulated, just wild wild west. But Kobe Brown played well, and he's a proven guy. He's been in the SEC. They won at Knoxville. They beat Tennessee. He balled out. Solid dude. If he come in and play a role and help, all for it. Same thing with Severe Wheeler when he came up from Georgia. Same thing. If they get Kobe Brown, come on over, man.
We need another Brown.
That's right. I'm with you, man. Been 30 years since the one and only Brown.
People don't believe it, and I'm like, it statistically feels almost impossible to only have one.
It's one more, yeah.
It's the fifth most common surname in America, and only one Brown in Kentucky.
Yeah,
it could have been me, but I was never close to 6'7", so
yeah, that's the only drawback. There's been multiple. We look at BigBlueHistory.net all the time, but there's been so many more less common surnames that have been on the squad
that have repeated. Absolutely.
So weird. Let's see. Oh, softball is about to start. 30 minutes. Ladies are in the SEC tournament playing Florida. Yeah. It's an 8-9 matchup. Just played them in this final series for senior night up at John Crop Stadium. Now playing them in Fayetteville. I don't know, do they rotate to everybody's squad for softball? I think they're playing in Arkansas. I thought they had like a designated spot, but
I have no idea.
They are in Fayetteville, and they play in about 30 minutes, and it's a rematch.
Men's tennis is playing this weekend.
Yes,
all cats, everything, man. Like Vince was saying, I understand you want to be a fan of the big time sport. I get that, right? Mm-hmm. I've never tried to. You're not a real fan, blah 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 blah. But I rock with everything, man.
Mm-hmm. If
it's got Kentucky on, I'm a watch it and root for it and follow it. It's really hard because a lot of the teams are doing really, really well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All of them have been elevated.
Absolutely.
That rising tide, if you want to call it, for every program.
Yeah.
Across the board. Volleyball just came out with their schedule released the other day about, coming up in August. And those games will be at Rupp now with the renovation. So it'll be a lot of stuff going on at Rupp Arena until the new Memorial Coliseum gets unveiled. So,
yeah, it's been time to renovate Memorial.
$82 million. We won't even know it when we go up there next time for gymnastics or women's basketball or volleyball.
Yeah,
we won't even know the place.
And I think next on the docket, they're going to get some men's basketball is going to be
appeased.
Yeah, and I understand it's frustrating. You look around, and it's one of those things that happens. When the Kraft Center was built, it was shiny and brand new. Other places have caught up and lapped it. And I understand the sentiment of Kentucky basketball. We should have the best of the best. I get that. But the practical matter is you got to invest in other things too.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think probably the biggest challenge to a new men's practice facility is where you put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of these places I've seen, this school's got this and this, they've got an on-campus arena already, and there's already land around it. And that's why a lot of these places are able to do that.
Yeah.
So I just think that that's not exactly fair, but fans are going to fan. But men's basketball is going to get it. It's going to be fine.
And that whole thing about the Kraft Center was the trendsetter, the standard, and now it's been passed. That's like anything. The highest paid quarterback is only the highest paid quarterback in the NFL for about 2 minutes. That Prescott gets his deal. Oh, then Matthew Stafford got to get one. Oh, then Russell Wilson got to get one. Oh, Lamar got to get one. It's it should be time to pay your Niners some here soon when these rookie deals run out. It's you're the highest paid for 2 minutes. Yeah,
Right.
when did Wilton Russell? Russell signed for 100,000 and 100,001. I mean, it's always going to be fluid. It's not just going to stop. Time's not going to stop just because the Kraft Center got renovated and nobody else is going to make something better the next year.
Yeah. And that's part of my thing too is y'all don't think these kids know Kentucky basketball. Like, you don't think these kids understand what Kentucky basketball means? Do we need all of the single? I get it. You want to have the biggest and the best, but come on, man.
And just watch the playoffs, and that's the biggest advertisement. Every team
get you a Kentucky guard, man.
Mm-hmm.
You and I talked years ago. You're gonna look up, and there's gonna be 7 or 8, or probably more than that, teams with Kentucky dudes as their 1 or 2. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Lakers.
Right?
The Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
The Kings. Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
I would still say Minnesota. Miami.
Okay. Yeah.
New York.
OKC.
Oh yeah, Shea balling out, man.
Mm-hmm.
As 8.
Yeah.
Maxey, I get he's 3, but I'm gonna put him on this list.
Mm-hmm.
That's 9 teams just off the top of my head.
He's doing some heavy contributing.
Right. They're not just there to they're not good practice. They're not good practice players. They're balling out and I feel like I'm missing somebody. Anyway. Well, Keldon Johnson's been balling in San Antonio. It's just that the Spurs have been garbage juice last couple of seasons.
So weird, but it had to happen eventually. But it's so weird seeing them not factor into anything. Kind of like maybe your wife. I'm sure maybe Katie's enjoying it. The Cardinals in dead last. I don't know if I know they can't be good every year, but to check the standings and to see them below the Pirates and the Reds and like bringing up the rear, like, man, I can't say I remember when I've seen the Cardinals like this.
No, but yeah, she's enjoying that because outside of NFC East hate, NL Central hate, man, everybody just hates everybody.
So that's great. It's not nice Midwest stuff. That's when they get hostile. The Midwest folks
get hostile, man. Out here in the Midwest, the Milwaukee and Chicago and St. Louis, man, they woo.
Like even Cincinnati's ahead of St. Louis right now, and they've been terrible for a long time.
But terrible since they got rid of Dusty Baker. But I don't know if you saw, man. Speaking of Midwest, I'm all Midwest now. I got a tractor to cut my yard.
Man, I saw that. It's just bright green, shiny.
It's electric, so it's got batteries and stuff. And I ain't gonna tell you what I spent on it. What I spent on it, it should cut the grass for me. But yeah, man, out here living life.
0 turn and
oh man, I took it out Saturday or Sunday. Might have been Sunday. Anyway, yeah, I got that first cut. I'm rolling like this here. Heck yeah, I'm all about it. Got me a drink holder. This thing has got cruise control. And I'm like, what?
Wow. See.
Yeah, cruise control. I got a USB port for my phone. Like,
you had your music. You had the music up. You had the music in.
Yeah, man. I'm rocking and rolling, man. Got the seat that's all lumbar support and everything. Yeah. I'm like, I might cut everybody's grass the way this goes.
I started to say it's gonna be TV's mowing service out there.
Oh yeah, man, it's great. It's got a wide 42-inch cut. Oh, my yard ain't even that big, but that's all right.
Did you use the cruise or you just do?
No, I did it. Yeah, right. My stepson, he helped me kind of put it together. Well, all we had to do was put the seat and the steering wheel on. He's like, hey, who's gonna get this first cut? I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna give you the second one.
I saw that, man. Fresh out the box. It was lean.
Oh yeah, well, it
took
came
up the
on a
whole,
huge.
took up the whole garage.
Oh yeah, it took up the third garage. Yeah. Well, the FedEx Freight had to drop it off, and I was like, oh, word. Like I had to take a picture, like the stand it came on. Like, how we get rid of this? But we'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Man, it's good out here in the suburbs. We're doing good. Going to see Mama B this weekend for Mother's Day.
There you go.
I'm flying in to spend some time with her, and then in a couple of weeks I'll be back again. Little Miss graduating from 8th grade.
Oh man,
so she's ready to go to high school.
She
my workout buddy. She's getting back to playing field hockey next year. So she's got this workout thing. She's running and doing stuff, and so she's challenging me. So I get my, hey, old man, I ran 2 miles. This is what I did. What did you do? I can run 2 miles too.
There you go. I like that little back and forth.
Yeah. Hey, old man. Hey, why don't you show me some respects?
That's right. That's right. Good stuff, man. Tell Mom B hello. Y'all be safe. Safe flights, safe travels, all that good stuff. I picked the Derby winner, so I don't have two like you. I do have one. I tweeted out Mage before it started. Right before the start, I'm still kind of that casual, the person that picks the NCAA tournament by mascot.
Oh yeah.
I'm just kind of looking at the field and I'm gonna go with Mage, and it, finally worked out for me. So you got Swell and Big Brown, and I got Mage.
Yeah. So there were 3 horses from Iowa.
I was wondering about that. I saw that dude with the rival. I saw the TJ whatever Otenzinger. I know it's Cyclones, and that's a bad word in your house.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw that dude with the museum and all the cars. If y'all check that out.
Oh yeah, because Adam came over to watch the Derby, and we were talking about it. It was a great double dip. It was Derby, and then it was the Lakers boat race in Golden State. It was a great day for me, but some kind of way, Adam said he went to school with the guy's nephew that owns the horses. I forget the connection. So we were kind of rooting for the Iowa horses. I thought that would have been fun, Iowa horse to win the Kentucky Derby. And but yeah, this is my first Derby not being in Kentucky. It was a little, and that's why I wanted when you said we were having Kenny on, I said that I had to express my gratitude because not being there. I forgot I was there last year because Mother's Day was that next Sunday. So I was in Louisville then, but they did a good job capturing. I'm kind of explaining things like, oh, you see that and this and this and this. And so I think we're going to go next year. Me and the missus, we're going to go to Derby 150.
That'd be awesome.
But she told me she got to have a seat. I said, I'm not going to the infield. The couple times I went to infield, I never saw a horse race. And one time, we didn't even know they had run the Derby. Like the sun started going down. Like, when's the Derby? I'm like, this is race number 9, the Derby. Woo, okay. So I was like, yeah, I'm too old for the for all that. So we got it in that day. Yeah. Do what?
Y'all got it in that day, boy.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, if you don't get there early and on the rail, and this was before they had they got a big board in the middle of the infield now. So they didn't have that back when I was in the infield. It was kind of like you on your own. You know what I'm saying? Like this was back when to text letter S, you had to press 7 a bunch of times. Like, and then you couldn't text too much because it was 10 cents per cent. I'm dating myself, but it's just crazy how things change. Like you remember when long distance used to be a thing?
Yeah.
We'd have commercials in the whole industry for long distance. Well, you got to dial 1010, 220, then the number. Really? Yeah. Like
AT&T and MCI was like Nike and Adidas back in
Yeah,
the,
because
it
the whole
was-
thing, you can hear a pin drop for long distance. Now
Yeah.
anybody can pick up a phone. You can talk to anybody around the world. That's
Mhm.
crazy.
It
I'm
was
feeling
like
old now.
it was back and forth like Coke and Pepsi. It was like AT&T. Hey, Sammy. Hey.
I'm tired of
On that
him walking in here like he pay rent.
note, yeah, you're gonna have him on the lawnmower next time. You're gonna have him
There's a
riding with
basket. There's a basket on the back for him. I'm like, if I thought he would stay put, he could ride with me.
you. Yeah.
Tired of this dog stomping around
Whew.
like he pay a bill.
Mm. He's a superstar, man. He's the star of the show.
Absolutely, man. This was fun. Yeah,
It was, man.
it's always good having some good guests and talking to Kenny Wright, talking to Vince. Like I said, we have back and forth every time Jennings does something. Because, man, what game was it? Was it the Seattle game? Must have been Seattle game because I was traveling for the Cowboys game. But the
Yeah.
Seattle game where he earned a first down. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna give him his props.
Yeah. Making an impression out there because you got to be tough to play for the Niners. So,
Hey, everybody out here blocking. That's the way it is, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, this was fun, man. Like you said, thanks to Kenny Rice, Vince Ferrara.
Yeah, absolutely. Always fun, man.
See what your Lakers gonna do tonight, and be safe going back home.
Yeah, but I'm hoping. Let's take care of it tonight.
There you go. They can rest, and you can rest. So
yeah, man, I need it. Come on, AD. Give me. Last time I asked for 30 and 15, he got 30 and 25. So
close enough. We'll hop off here, man. It's been an episode of Cast Talk Wednesday. It'll be up on the YouTube and the Roku and all the places where you can watch or listen, however you choose. Oh, real quick, just want to say, want to give our thoughts to Michelle's #1 fan of the show, but this guy listens, tweets at us a lot. Gerard Baker tweets at us a lot. I saw where he tweeted out that he had lost his job of 18 years, and that is never fun to go through. And you lose a job, and you probably don't see it coming, and you've been there that long. And so I hated to hear that, but just know that we're thinking about you, and we always see you tweeting at us and talking about how you enjoy listening to the show, and hope you enjoy this one. Yeah, so hopefully you enjoy that one, and just know that we're thinking about you. And if we can do anything, holler at us. But we did see that. Wanted to let you know that you was in our thoughts, JB, man. So couldn't come on here and get off here without
absolutely. We wouldn't be doing this if people didn't take time out of their schedule to listen. And Lord knows, I know there's so much stuff you can listen and do. When somebody says they catch what we do, I'm very appreciative of that, because there's a lot of other stuff people could be doing. So
that's the truth.
Yeah.
So thanks to everybody. Appreciate you, TV, man. It's always fun. And we'll do it again next week. Appreciate the BS3 Network. This is Cast Talk Wednesday. We rolling out.
If the Lakers win the championship this year, you're gonna come on over to Purple and Gold. You ain't even got to buy nothing. I got stuff I can send. If you want, you can come on over. Come on, man. Come on.
I gotta resist, man. I gotta resist, y'all. It's enough y'all out there, man. Y'all need me.
Hey,
you gotta have
49ers win the Super Bowl. You gonna come on over too?
Oh boy, see, I'm old and set my ways. I can't be changing. I'm gonna play my old card. I'm old and set my ways. I can't.
I got some of this young stuff with these TikToks and Tic Tacs and things.
Can't be rooting for the Lakers and 49ers at 46 years old. I can't be switching up to that now.
Baby.
Gotta. It wouldn't feel right.
And look, I got my 1993.
Got
my 1993 shorts. So,
oh man, yeah, those are nice, man. That's dope right there.
Man, 99 was this a couple weeks ago. Just got an email. Hey, would you like 15% off Kentucky stuff? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Wife, this is why she a keeper. She's like, go on, get you. You know you want them. Okay. All right. Twist my arm. Okay, I get these 93s.
There you go. Shout out to 1999.
I am the icicles away from a complete set of the 90s.
Mm.
Got the 93 swoops, the 94 zigzags. I need the icicles. I got the denim home and away.
Yes.
And I got when we switched to Nike in 98. Hey, I'm right
Yeah.
there, baby.
You got it, man. You get the whole decade, man.
That's
The
right.
whole decade complete.
That's right.
I got to get on there and give 19 some money. So I have to go in there and,
Now they come with pockets. My first couple didn't have pockets. Now they add pockets to them. That's great because I got
Mhm.
stuff.
Yep.
When I was younger, I didn't need pockets and things. Now I got
Yep. I know.
medications and things.
I'm the same as you. I know.
Here we go. Here we go. Always fun, man. We do it again next week.
Absolutely. We'll see y'all there. Appreciate you.